From athletes to authors, entertainers to innovators, we connect with those who help shape our culture. Join us in revealing stories of their lives and backgrounds, their triumphs and tragedies that molded them into who they are today. Authentically off-script and personally illuminating, this is Audibles with Jason Scarborough. This week on Audibles, Jeff Bauer.
So let's go back to where it all started for you in Roswell, Georgia. May 28th, 1953 is when your story starts. So how would you describe growing up there in good old Roswell, Georgia?
Well, I was born in New Jersey.
Born in New Jersey?
I know it's hard to tell from my southern accent. But, yeah, my whole family's from up north. And, in fact, my wife, we met here in college, but I was from Glassboro, New Jersey, and my wife was born in Buffalo, New York, which we just got back doing her side of the family reunion. And my dad moved. He was with Amoco Oil. We moved south, Boynton Beach, Florida, there, Jacksonville to Atlanta area, Roswell, just outside of Atlanta, back before Atlanta boomed, and that's where I call home.
How would you describe growing up with your family there in Roswell?
Great. Had wonderful parents. My brother and I are so fortunate that we had parents that, obviously loved us, but cared about us and kept us busy and supported us in everything we did. And we played everything, my brother and I. We were football, basketball, baseball, golf, you name it, we did it. And, more kids ought to do that now. I hate all this specializing in one sport. I think kids ought to be kids and compete and play. You got time to, narrow it down to what you really want to concentrate on the older you get. But I'd like to see more of that in high school.
Kids should play more than one sport all the time.
Hey, play them all. I did it all.
Mm-hmm.
And kept you busy.
Mm-hmm.
But kids need that too. Need to get off the internet, and turn the TV off and go out and play. That's what we do. Obviously we didn't have all that growing up.
That's right.
We didn't have phones, cell phones and all that. And we were out moving and shaking.
So how early on did sports become important to you? How early can you remember?
Real early, because my dad introduced it to us, and he was out there with us throwing the baseball, the football, and he put the basketball goal up and the concrete slab, and here we go with basketball. And it was my parents that got us started.
How early did football kind of appear on the radar as, this is something that I might have a future in?
I guess when I started getting recruited.
Mm-hmm.
Recruiting didn't start as early as it does nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
But, I guess beginning of my junior year, I started hearing from colleges and, ultimately signed with the University of Georgia. About that time.
Do you remember when your first football game was? You play we had the little exchange clubs back in the day that you played football for. Did you do any of that?
You mean way, way back?
Way, way back.
Oh, second grade in Boynton Beach, we had the Blue Marlins was the name of our team.
The Blue Marlins?
The Blue Marlins. And I think the first game we played was against the Red Snappers.
The Red Snappers.
That's it.
Being you said you lived close to the bay, so that's where the names came from, I guess?
Right on the beach.
Right on the beach, yeah.
Boynton Beach is just a little bit north of Fort Lauderdale, hour from Miami. So we were right on the ocean. My brother and I used to ride our bikes to the beach every day. About a 2-mile bike ride, and you could do that back then. I don't know if you can do it nowadays.
I miss the days being able to ride, just be able to get on your bike and take off. And you guys
That's right.
got to ride your bike to the beach. That's pretty good.
Oh,
pretty good childhood.
We did that, at least a few times a week.
That sounds like a lot of fun. And you talked about your high school career at Roswell High School, and I couldn't believe this when I read it. You led your teams to multiple state championships in football, multiple titles in baseball, and a championship in basketball. Your senior season was particularly notable. You guys had the rare triple crown of championships your senior season. That's impressive. What factors do you think contributed to you having all that success in the major three sports?
Good players, good coaches.
Yeah.
We had a good run of athletes, I guess. And again, everybody. I think I was the only one that played all three sports. But we just had a good run of athletes, a great place to grow up in, and I would think the most important thing is our coaches. We had some outstanding coaches and guys that stayed at Roswell forever. I mean, they retired there, but the mix was there. Good support from the people in Roswell, good players, good coaches, and we put it all together. I'm not sure if anybody's won football, basketball, baseball in the same year in the state of Georgia. So it was quite an accomplishment.
I don't know if anybody's done that in the state of Mississippi.
Yeah, it's tough to do.
That's real tough to do. I can't. I wanted to ask you that when I heard you say that on Marchette Kenny's podcast. I was like, I can't believe I just heard that, because I've never heard of anyone doing that in the state of Mississippi or anywhere in the South for that matter. So quite an accomplishment, and it led to you wanting to go play for the Georgia Bulldogs. So you're a freshman in 71, and you make the decision. You said, look, you just didn't feel like you were going to get the playing time that you desired or maybe deserved. And you guys come on a visit to USM, and I heard the story. I want to make sure I get it right. You were talking about taking the visit with your dad to Southern Miss, and you guys just fell in love with Hattiesburg, the people. What was it about Hattiesburg on that visit in Southern Miss that just endeared themselves to you and made you fall in love with them?
Well, I love the people. Dad and I came down here, and we just enjoyed being around PW, Underwood, and Bob Hitch is the one. Bob was an assistant coach. Bob ended up being the athletic director at a few places, and he was at SMU at during my time at SMU when I coached, and but my dad really loved it, and I think Dad had some influence on me also. But he said, "Son, this is a really good place," and it reminded me, it was not as big, obviously, as the University of Georgia, but a little bit like, growing up in Roswell. I mean, the atmosphere and the environment, and it was one of the best moves I've ever made.
It clicked with you, and apparently it resonated. You became the starting quarterback for the Golden Eagles from 73 to 75, becoming a 3-year starter for Southern Miss. And while at Southern Miss, I've heard you tell the story, and I was like, I can't believe I just heard that. Y'all really didn't play a home game really the entirety of your career here. What's the story behind that?
Well, we played, when I made the move to transfer, PW said by the time you're eligible, because I had to sit out a year with the transfer rule, a little different nowadays, but he said by the time you're eligible for your sophomore year, he said we'll have a brand new stadium. We're renovating the stadium. Well, that didn't happen. Everything, like construction, takes longer, and everything got pushed back. We played 33 games in my 3 years, back when we had 11-game seasons, but of those 33, 3 home games. And we had some so-called home games my junior, senior year, and that was my sophomore year. We played 3 games at home. They hadn't even started the stadium renovation. But we had so-called home games in Biloxi, Jackson, and Mobile. And New Orleans. Played in the Superdome, I think, one time. But it was a traveling road show every week. My junior and senior year, we're on going to Biloxi or Jackson, that's an away game. I mean, it's our home state, but anyway, it's unusual to do something like that.
I'm wondering if you ever had the thought, and you can say this years later now, I guess. You ever have the thought, what have I done? Having to play all these away games,
Well, back then, I transfer and that's it.
Yeah.
I got to make the best of it. There's not the transfer portal where I can go 1-2 times or whatever. So, but I fell in love with the place. I enjoyed going to school here. Met my wife here. Everything was great, and I was having fun. I was having fun playing ball and had made so many friends here and everything, and I don't regret it one bit.
Don't go anywhere. Audibles returns in a moment here on the Spirit Media Network.
We don't treat cancer, or design breathtaking buildings, or slow cook the town's most talked about barbecue. That's all you. You're the ones who create and astonish, game and laugh, who come together and imagine a safer, more connected world. The things you do inspire us every day. So much so, it's right there in our name. Customer inspired. C-Spire. Inspired by you.
Between the blue sky and green grass, there's a Mississippi cattleman making sure the food you need is on your local grocery store shelves. Whether it's a big juicy steak or hamburgers for your backyard cookout, our food starts right here. Because for these cattlemen, it's not just a job, it's caring for the animals that make up our nation's food supply. Just one of the many commodities a Mississippi farmer grows for you, the farm families of Mississippi.
Hi, I'm Erica Bedwell, the Director of Rehab at Covington County Hospital. The Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services says you have a right to choose the swing bed program that's right for your loved ones. Our patients experience a comforting, supportive, and healing environment in large private rooms. Our swing bed staff is highly skilled and includes board-certified physicians, practitioners, and experienced nursing staff, all working alongside physical, occupational, and speech therapist staff to return your loved ones to the quality of life they deserve.
This is going to be hard because you've got a lot of great memories as a player at Southern Miss, albeit a lot of games on the road. Can you narrow down one or two moments that really stand out to you that bring a smile to your face from your playing days here?
I remember my last game we played in Jackson, played BYU. They were pretty good. I had Gifford Nielsen, Todd Christensen. A lot of people won't remember those names, but they had a good football team, and we were good at that time. It was Bobby Collins' first year, and we got better and better as the year went on. Went 7-4, playing every game outside of Hattiesburg. But my last game, we beat BYU 42-14, and I remember my last play was like a 29, 30-yard touchdown pass. So it was a good way to finish up.
It's a good way. Go out with a bang.
Yeah.
Now, you had the opportunity, I've heard you say, that you could have signed a free agent contract with the Detroit Lions,
right,
but you were ready to get into coaching, and you had the opportunity to become a graduate assistant here. So when you look back at that time as a GA, how do you see how it shaped your coaching career as we sit here now?
Well, making that decision, that was a long shot, making that, I probably wasn't an NFL caliber type quarterback, and I knew it. And I had an opportunity to come back. Coach Collins offered me a grad assistant job, which I took, and I wanted to get my master's. I was a business major, which I did, and and things worked out. I don't know at that time, my senior year, that I wanted to coach. That grew on me a little bit more. You know, when you start getting close to getting that degree and it's time to go out and do something. And I actually did. I had job interviews with, 2 or 3 companies that, and I was getting ready to go to Hartford, Connecticut for a final interview, and with a company when Mac Brown was the wide receiver coach here. He left to go to Memphis as an assistant coach, and Bobby Collins offered me the job, and which I accepted on the spot. It didn't. My wife and I were engaged at that time. She was living in New Orleans, and she called me up and said, "Well, how'd your job interview go?" I said, "Well, I didn't go. Bobby Collins called me in and offered me a job." She said, "Doing what?" And I said, "Coaching football." Long silence. She didn't. I think she had her sights. She said, "Well, coaches don't make much money, do they?" And I said, "Well, it's what I want to do," and it's been great. She was a tremendous coach's wife and supportive, and we wouldn't change anything.
Oh, I love it. And coaches don't make a whole lot, do they?
Which they didn't at that time,
really
you know.
didn't. Well, that position as a GA, it paid off. You were elevated in 1978 to quarterbacks coach and wide receivers coach, and you got the unique opportunity to coach one of my favorite all-time guys, Reggie Collier. Oh. And I've heard you talk about, and I hope I got the quote right, he's one of the best. He's the best on the field, one of the most dominant athletes you've ever seen on the field. And he's one of my favorite guys. He's been on the show, ambassador for the university, great guy. And Rick Cleveland, the great sports writer, still says to him, Reggie Collier's the best quarterback to come through Southern Miss in the last 25, 30 years.
He was such a dominant player because he could do both. He could throw the ball, but he had wheels like no other quarterback did at that time. And we ran the option, and I talked to so many defensive coordinators that would tell you, he was so difficult to defend because, you had to play the pass and you had to play the run. Most quarterbacks back in that day, you had to be a passer. But now the two-dimensional quarterbacks are so popular, and he could fly. He could take a game over. And I talked to so many defensive coordinators that just said y'all were just so difficult to defend because of the quarterback. That he could do both. But he was. I remember. I'll just share a little story for you. We played. I think we were playing Texas Arlington. It was opening. I think it might have been the opening game of the season. No, it wasn't. Sometime later in the middle of the year, but we run an option first play of the game, read option, triple option, and Reggie runs right by the defensive end and for an 80-yard touchdown. And I'm up in the box with the offensive coordinator, Whitey Jordan, and I'm a little upset. And he said, "What's wrong?" I said, "Well, he ought to get up inside on the defensive end and pitch or keep, depending on, what he does." Well, we come back and we get the ball the next possession on the 20-yard line again, and we run the same play. And he goes 80 again and does the same thing. And I said, "God dang it, Collier, get up inside and make the end take you." And Whitey nudged me, and he said, "Bauer, let me tell you one thing. Don't overcoach that guy." Which he had, and that was so true. It was one of the great lessons, when you got an athlete, even though he doesn't do it exactly like you coach it, but when you got that kind of ability, pat him on the butt.
You have a thoroughbred, you let him run.
That's right.
Let him do it.
No question.
He is so talented, and I've told some of the younger Southern Miss fans and some of the younger Southern Miss players, hey, you want to see some greatness, go to YouTube and check out some Reggie Collier highlights. Just truly one of the greatest athletes to ever come through, not just Southern Miss, but Mississippi, and you had a chance to coach him. But So Bobby Collins, he leaves in 81 to head to SMU, and you follow him there, and kind of getting out of your comfort zone a little bit to leave Hattiesburg, a place that had meant so much to you. But do you look back at that now, deciding to follow Coach Collins to SMU and say, that kind of made you a better coach overall, maybe kind of getting out of your comfort zone a little bit?
I think so. Different experience, different everything. We were there 5 years and had good players. Didn't end up the way we wanted it to there, but it was a great experience. I'd do it all over again, if that was if it came about that way. But enjoyed coaching there, I really did, and I think you can't get stuck at one place if you want to be a head coach. You need some experience at different schools, different environments, and that helped.
So you leave SMU, you got a brief period at Wake Forest, and you're not there for long, and then in 1988 you get the chance to come back here to Southern Miss as offensive coordinator, quarterbacks coach for Curly Hallman.
Mm-hmm.
How did Coach Hallman help shape your coaching philosophy, and what did he mean to you?
Curly was good. Curly and I got to know each other when I coached at SMU. Mm-hmm. Curly was at Texas A&M, and we both recruited East Texas, and so we got to know each other. I was at the point in my career that I needed to be, and I wanted to be an offensive coordinator. Mm-hmm. And Curly calls up and he got the job here. Calls up and offers me the coordinator's job, and it was an easy decision for me. And I knew I had an opportunity to coach a guy named Brett Favre too. So it was not a hard decision to make, and worked out well.
So you've gotten to coach Brett Favre and Reggie Collier. Not too shabby at this point in your career, right? To coach Brett Favre and Reggie Collier.
Very fortunate. Good players will make you good coaches. I've coached some too that when people didn't think I was a very good coach. But I am. You think back, I am blessed to have an opportunity to, had an opportunity to coach two great players.
Good players have to have the right coach too to push the right buttons. So don't forget, they had to have you in their life to push the right buttons too.
Don't go anywhere. Audibles returns in a moment here on the Spirit Media Network.
It's your front door. You decide who and what comes inside. Shouldn't it work the same with your doorway to the internet? That's why C Spire created Connect and Protect. So age-appropriate content comes into your home, and the rest stays out there. C Spire's new Connect and Protect plans, starting at just $30 a month. Get the best devices for your kids with free guided setup today. C Spire, inspired by you.
The fabric of any community is its people. It's the commitment to hard work and to be our best. It's where you know your neighbor by name. It's where family is important. At Covington County Hospital, we are your family and friends. That's why your healthcare is important to us. From emergency room visits to primary care to behavioral health, we want to make sure that healthcare is available when you need it. Covington County Hospital, where your healthcare matters.
Up before the dawn and home long after the sun sets. We pass this farm work ethic on to our children too. They have their chores just like yours, but we also raise animals. Taking care of these animals helps them understand just how important what we do on this farm is for their future and Mississippi's.
Another way Mississippi farmers grow what's important to your life, the farm families of Mississippi.
Family owned and operated since 1986, Lakeside Molding has become the trusted source of architectural products throughout the South. They offer fine interior architectural moldings, custom millwork, and cabinet doors designed and handcrafted in Flowwood. Their showroom on Lakeland Drive is stocked with today's most sought-after interior details, including corbels, post, fireplace mantles, bath vanities, mirrors, and much more. Tim Shoemaker and his staff work closely to meet client needs for new construction, restoration, and remodeling projects. Lakeside Molding, where details make the difference.
So in 1990, you're at Oklahoma State at this point in your coaching career. And I've heard you say you were only there for 6 months. And then your journey takes another unexpected turn. Coach Hallman accepts a position at LSU. And I believe you were recruiting out in Texas, and you get a phone call over the overhead speaker where you were. What's the story there?
Yeah, I'm at Texas Stadium, the old Texas Stadium, and I'm watching a high school playoff game. And there's an announcement, and I go to that's how you did it back then. And I go to a phone in the outside of the near the concession stands, and pick the phone up. Anyway, I get a call from the job came. I'm getting ahead of myself. The job came open. And I came down here and interviewed. And then what I'm talking about now is I was at Texas Stadium. This is after the interview. And it's Bill McClellan. He said, "We want you to be our next football coach." So that's how I found out. Pat Jones, the head coach at Oklahoma State, was on his way down, coming down to go recruiting with me for Oklahoma State, obviously. And he brought some clothes and all this and that, and I come down here and accept a job, and I wanted to be head coach. I always did, and coming back to the alma mater even more special for me.
December 2nd, 1990. That's when your journey as head coach starts here at Southern Miss, and your first game is a bowl game that happens to be Brett Favre's last game. And how did that work as sort of a baptism by fire, so to speak? I mean, it didn't work out the way you wanted to as far as, a win, but how did that experience kind of teach you, kind of help you and prepare you for the next full season?
Well, it's a game before the full season that, and Bill gave me an option. Bill McClellan gave me an option. You want to coach the bowl game? It's kind of unusual, but having been here just the previous year, or the 2 years before that, I knew most everybody on the team, so it wasn't a hard transition at that time, and I knew a lot of the staff. Some of the staff went with Curly to LSU, and the others, helped me through the bowl game. So, I was familiar with those guys, having coached with most of them. So it really wasn't difficult to do.
Your first 4 or 5 years here, I mean, it was, again, a baptism by fire. You're trying to build a program that, at this point, they're on their third head coach in what? I can't remember how many years, like 5 or 6 years at this point. So you're trying to lay a foundation for a program. But what lessons did you learn in those first 4 or 5 years that kind of helped prepare you and propel you to the success that you had later on here at Southern Miss?
My first year, didn't do a good job, and, learned a few things. I think most importantly, just we had to go back and we assessed our football team, and evaluated what we had, and we needed to recruit some higher character kids. I made some tough calls, got rid of some players, some talented guys that really wouldn't buy into what we were trying to do, and what we expected, I expected of them. And that was the best thing we ever did. The next year we weren't very talented at all as a football team, but we go 7-4, and that was an amazing year. I still look back and I'm thinking, how did we do that? But we hit the recruiting trail. Character was big from an evaluation standpoint, and we hit the 2-lane highways a lot. I really wanted to recruit kids that were multi-sport athletes in high school, and we got guys that we got in the program, a year or two of development. They ended up being really, really good players. Going to the NFL, we had so many of them. I know that Liberty Bowl, and I think it was 97, we had 17 draft picks on that football team. And most of those guys, a lot of those guys were not highly recruited players. And we did. We you know, we butted heads with Bama and Florida State and Nebraska. I mean, we beat guys, but not as much as I wanted to. But, you know, we were going to go after the best, but also at the same time, we were going after athletes and, you know, taking a year or two to develop them.
You know, that's kind of where the whole anyone, anytime, anywhere mantra way of doing things here at Southern Miss, that's really where it was born. I remember hearing you say in a separate interview that you told Bill McClellan at the time, basically load it up.
Yeah.
Load the schedule up. We'll play anywhere. Just doesn't matter. We'll play anyone. And looking back at that, it's pretty amazing. I mean, you guys were considered giant killers, for lack of a better phrase. I mean,
Which
really
I hate that.
You don't like that phrase?
No, because, you know, my expectations are we're going to line up and win. You know, I mean, this isn't going to be an upset. You know, we're supposed to win. And that was the mindset of our football team, you know, and we built that over time. And, heck, I believed it, and those kids believed it. When they went out in that field, it didn't matter who we were playing. You know, you're expected to play well and win.
That explains the chip on the shoulder that a lot of the guys played with. Now hearing you say it that way, because those guys really, I keep talking about Marchand and Adelius Thomas and guys like that, TJ Slaughter. I mean, so many guys, great players that you had in your time here. And it seemed like every one of those guys, I'm leaving several out, I know. There's so many great players that you coached here, but every one of them, it seemed that they had that chip on their shoulder, like we expect to win, and you're not going to disrespect us at all. And it showed on the field, and it showed in the play, and they were never surprised if they knocked off an Alabama or an LSU or an Auburn or TCU. There wasn't this shock and surprise. They expected to win.
That's and we were on the road all the time. I don't know if I ever played more home games than away games in any season.
Wow.
I'd have to look back, but you know, going back to what you said about Bill McClellan, Bill said, you know, I told him what I wanted to do. He said, well, that takes money, and you know, he said we can do a lot, you know, depending on who we schedule. And I said, hey, load it up. Play them on the road. It doesn't matter. You know, we'll go anywhere. And that's where that saying came from. Anyone, anywhere, anytime. And we did. We loaded up and went on the road and did pretty well.
Is there a non-conference win against some of those opponents? I know it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard to narrow it down to one or two. But if you could, is there one that was a little sweeter than another, knocking off some of those teams we just mentioned?
Well, I think a turning point game for us was about my fourth year. Not a good first year, pretty good second year, not a good third year, and then we started getting better and better. You know, the recruiting kicked in. We had some good players that were getting into their second, third year of the program, and we were having a good year. We were scheduled. We finished up playing LSU. Down in Baton Rouge. Of course, Curley's down there as the head coach, but we were getting pretty good, and we needed to win to have a winning season, and we did. And I really felt like, you know, improvement all the way up to that ball game, and that was a good win for us. And after that, if you look at our win-loss, we did pretty well.
Yeah, I've heard Marchand talk about taking the Southern Miss flag and going to midfield, you know, because he's a Louisiana guy, grew up, you know, idolizing LSU, and he goes to midfield at the Eye of the Tiger and plants the Southern Miss flag. And he's talked a lot about that. It was just a moment of, I don't know, maybe exacting some frustration on his hometown and his home state.
Might be, I don't know.
Maybe, but I remember him talking about that and seeing pictures of it. It was, like you said, a turning point for the program. And the 90s, from that point forward, really the entire 90s, they were marked with a lot of success, conference championships, bowl wins. You also had your share of heartache, unfortunately. In 1997, your daughter, Kristen, passes away after succumbing to injuries from an auto accident. I've heard you talk about that, Coach. I know it's difficult, but I've heard you also say your players and just being around the structure of football, and if I have any of this wrong, please correct me, but just being around your guys, and you felt you had a responsibility to your guys. I've heard you say that.
Yeah.
And you had to get back to your team. That's got to be really difficult because you're planning this funeral. You lose a child, but you've got 80 to 100 guys that are like your sons. You had them to fall back on and kind of lean on, and they loved on you and supported you. How important was Southern Miss football to kind of help you in the grieving process?
I don't know how I would have got through it, honestly. I know right after her funeral, Debbie and I were at the house, and she said, "What are you going to do tomorrow?" She asked me, "You going to take a couple days off?" I said, "No, I'm going to practice, get ready for this game." I think we were playing Nevada, Las Vegas, up here, or Nevada, University of Nevada, I think was one in Reno. But I said, no, I want to get back, I've got that responsibility. Players were unbelievable. They were. And it turned out to be a special year. And the icing on the cake was the Liberty Bowl and the pretty dominating performance against a Pitt team. And, I owe so much to our players and coaches.
I've heard you talk about that moment, and I just thought, man, for people that don't understand the game of football and how there's this brotherhood between coach, players, sometimes the fans, and the fan support was they showed up for you too, from what I understand. And that game against Nevada, there was a lot of love being shown for the Bauer family, and rightfully so. And I've heard a lot of former players talk about that's the measure of a man, to prioritize his team in the darkest day of his life. So I want to commend you for that. I've never been able to tell you that personally.
As much as we talk about adversity and overcoming adversity, then, I talked about that a lot. Well, now it was time to show it.
Yeah.
So, but I wanted to. And it was good for me, to do it that way.
Don't go anywhere. Audibles returns in a moment here on the Spirit Media Network.
It has often been said that home is where the heart is. It's where hard-working and dedicated people form the fabric of a thriving community. At Covington County Hospital, it's our priority to help keep our community safe, healthy, and moving. With our primary care clinics and services, we are working to keep you healthy. Because home is where the heart is. Home is where family matters. Covington County Hospital, where your health care matters.
We don't treat cancer, or design breathtaking buildings, or slow cook the town's most talked about barbecue. That's all you. You're the ones who create and astonish, game and laugh, who come together and imagine a safer, more connected world. The things you do inspire us every day. So much so, it's right there in our name. Customer inspired. C-Spire. Inspired by you.
Harvested in June and July, Mississippi-grown sweet corn arrives just in time for your cookout or outdoor get-together. But you better be quick. Once Mississippi-grown sweet corn appears on your local farmers market shelves, it disappears just as fast. There are so many ways to cook and eat Mississippi-grown sweet corn, but of course our favorite is corn on the cob.
Sweet corn, just one of the many foods the Mississippi farmer grows for you, the farm families of Mississippi.
Family owned and operated since 1986, Lakeside Molding has become the trusted source of architectural products throughout the South. They offer fine interior architectural moldings, custom millwork, and cabinet doors designed and handcrafted in Flowwood. Their showroom on Lakeland Drive is stocked with today's most sought-after interior details, including corbels, post, fireplace mantles, bath vanities, mirrors, and much more. Tim Shoemaker and his staff work closely to meet client needs for new construction, restoration, and remodeling projects. Lakeside Molding, where details make the difference.
Talk about that Liberty Bowl win. I mean, you guys, it was like a 30-point win from what I remember. And I remember hearing a couple of former players talk about watching game day and how Lee Corso picked against Southern Miss, and they kind of just one more layer of motivation. And, you know, the 2000s, I'm going to read some of this off to you. 2000 to 2007, as you turn towards the millennium, we talk about the 90s. 2000 to 2007, 7 bowl appearances, and a lot of wins over a lot of great teams. So you look at that period from the mid-90s really to 2007, a lot of success, a lot of great wins. Unfortunately, in 2007, you resign. I've always wanted to ask you the real story and what you could tell us, because I'll be honest, I can say this on camera that I was shocked. A lot of folks in the circles that I deal in now, all these years later, and even back then, there was a lot of shock about what in the world is going on. Maybe he's ready to do something else. Maybe there's always more to the story. What is the story that you feel comfortable sharing?
Well, I didn't resign. I did resign, but I was forced to resign.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. I got fired.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and I'd rather not get into a lot of that. I had, maybe the best way to put it in a nutshell is, I had higher goals than I think maybe our administration had. And we weren't getting any better. We weren't doing things to get better. And so I got no regrets. I mean, if I could do it all over again, I'd put 17 years of head coaching in again.
Shouldn't have any regrets. Here's your tenure. 4 Conference USA championships, Conference USA Coach of the Year 3 times, inducted into the Mississippi Sports Hall of Fame and Museum Hall of Fame, Southern Miss Hall of Fame, 14 straight winning seasons. That still sticks out to me. 11 bowl appearances, over 40 players who went pro, and your record 119 wins, still a record here at Southern Miss. So when you hear that now, as you and I sit here, after all the phone conversations we've had leading up to today and everything, when you hear those accomplishments now, what comes to your mind?
Well, I'm thankful for those players. I had good players. And, you know, you surround yourself with good people, good things will happen if you work at it. And I had good support. Bill McClellan, you know, Bill got us in Conference USA. That's, you know, probably in those 17 years, that was the best thing. You know, you got something to play for. You're playing for a conference championship. And, you know, we were independent prior to that and never had that opportunity to do that. We had some winning seasons that you couldn't go to bowl games. There were no tie-ins. And, you know, all that changed, and it was really a big positive for this university.
You got to serve a unique opportunity to serve on the College Football Playoff Committee from 2016 to 2019. We hadn't met at that point. We had crossed paths, but I was so excited when you got to do that. I was like, he's perfect for it. And if I have it right, the first year you sat next to Condoleezza Rice.
Yeah.
What were those conversations like?
She's sharp.
Yeah.
Look, she knows her football.
Yeah.
She's an athlete.
Yeah.
And, no, she was great. And, you know, when she gave, you know, her opinions on things and critiquing a game or whatever, or personnel on the certain teams, you know, you were impressed. Met a lot of good people. I enjoyed that.
Did it ever get heated in there?
No, it was really, it really didn't.
Really?
It was non-contentious. It wasn't contentious at all. I don't remember any time. You know, it was just, you know, all the committee members giving their opinions, and, you know, everybody was in charge of a conference, and, you know, we split that up through all the conferences and everything. But it was, you know, Bill Hancock, a great leader, did a tremendous job. We're going to miss him. I guess this year's his first year, you know, not being involved in that same capacity. But it was a good experience, good 3 years. You know, you can't go for longer than 3 years, 3-year terms. But I really enjoyed it.
When you look at the schedule that y'all played, the opponents that y'all played when you were coaching, once the college football playoff went to 12 teams, I immediately thought, harken back to the days of Southern Miss, anyone, anytime, anywhere. You guys would probably be in that 12-team playoff with that schedule that you guys used to play, because everything centers around non-conference strength of schedule, your conference schedule, all those kind of things. And now with Southern Miss being in the Sun Belt, one of the best group of 5 conferences in the land, I looked at those schedules that when you coached, I'm like, man, Southern Miss would be a shoe-in for that 12-team playoff.
It'd
don't
be
you
close
think?
on the 12-team.
Yeah.
Now, the previous setup, no.
Yeah.
When you were just going with the 4. But no, that you got a good point there, and certainly a little extra motivation, you know. And I'll take anything I can use, you know, to get those guys ready to play and win.
I immediately thought, man, they would be so close to that 12-team playoff. So nowadays, you know, you're such an ambassador for this university, being around the football program again. How does it feel for you now? You still got roots here in Hattiesburg. You still live in this area. Family's still here. To just be able to be an ambassador but still be close to the football program, you got to enjoy that.
I enjoy it. I go to the games, Debbie and I do, and I come out and watch them practice some. I try not to get too involved, you know, but I don't want to be somebody that he's showing up 4 or 5 times a week. I'll go every once in a while to practices, but I don't miss any home games. I don't miss these new rules. I'll tell you that.
Oh.
I don't know, with the NIL and the transfer portal. You know, I think those days of what we did with signing players and 2-3 years of development, I don't know that you do that anymore. That you can do it. Everybody's gonna, you know, you don't know who the faces are from one year to the next with all the transfers, and it's a different landscape now. Not one that I like, to be honest with you.
How would you change it if you were in charge of? I mean, NIL and both NIL and the portal feel to me like something that got here before certain people were maybe ready for it. It's like drinking water out of a fire hose.
Yeah.
How would you correct both of those if you could?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. You know, you hear about the NIL and the transfer portal and you know, the conference realignments and all those things. Do you hear much about academics? You know, when I played and coached, you know, kids, they were on scholarship and they were taken care of. I remember way back when you couldn't have a job during the school year. And players complained they didn't have any money and this and that. And I was coaching at the time, and then outside of football season, you could hold a part-time job and still retain your scholarship. I didn't have anybody come in and ask me if they could go to work, you know. They were doing all right, but, you know, your education is worth so much. And, you know, I'm not sure where that's going with kids, you know, transferring as much as they are right now, and you know, the NIL has been good for most of them. I'm not sure how that's going to work out. I can't imagine myself coaching. I don't know what that locker room would be like. Kids are going to talk. They're going to tell everybody how much they're getting. You know, that might be tough to manage. You know, so there are a lot of things that are happening now that I'm certainly glad I didn't have to deal with. Coaching was easier back then. The one thing that hadn't changed is between the lines in the games. You know, that stayed the same, thank goodness. But off the field, you know, all the staff personnel that you need to have in order to, you know, really be good. And you know, I was talking to some coaches here and there. I see some guys and talk to them on the phone at times, and one of them told me, you know, that day of hiring that guy that's a real good recruiter, it's not as important. It's how much money you offer them. You know, that's the important thing. And don't waste your time talking about academics. They're not interested in that. How much can I make? And so it's different. I'm not sure for the best, but you know, maybe from a financial standpoint, obviously those players are happier.
Don't go anywhere. Audibles returns in a moment here on the Spirit Media Network.
We don't treat cancer, or design breathtaking buildings, or slow cook the town's most talked about barbecue. That's all you. You're the ones who create and astonish, game and laugh, who come together and imagine a safer, more connected world. The things you do inspire us every day. So much so, it's right there in our name. Customer inspired. C-Spire. Inspired by you.
Our farm's amber waves of grain become your tasty creations in the kitchen. From a bushel of wheat comes the flour you need to enjoy the breads, cakes, cereals, and pastas we all love so much. And even if you aren't a world-renowned chef, wheat grown in Mississippi is used in many of the foods you buy on the grocery store shelves. Wheat, just one of the many commodities a Mississippi farmer grows for you. The Farm Families of Mississippi.
Hi, I'm Erica Bedwell, the Director of Rehab at Covington County Hospital. The Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services says you have a right to choose the swing bed program that's right for your loved ones. Our patients experience a comforting, supportive, and healing environment in large private rooms. Our swing bed staff is highly skilled and includes board-certified physicians, practitioners, and experienced nursing staff, all working alongside physical, occupational, and speech therapist staff to return your loved ones to the quality of life they deserve.
You already said, yeah, I'm glad I don't have to deal with all that now. I was going to ask you, what do you do to just kind of relax and wind down? I know part of the answer because of what we've already talked about. You love that riding lawnmower now.
I've never had one.
You're
in
like
my life.
you're the perfect landscaper. Is what we've talked several times before today, and you love taking care of your landscaping and your lawn and everything around your house.
Well, I don't know that I love it, but you know, when you're 71 years old and you're retired, you look for things to do. You know, there's a checklist, to-do list every morning, and but I'll tell you, having a riding lawnmower, I got a big yard, but it makes it easier. And, you know, but I'm living next to my daughter and son-in-law and with the 4 grandkids, and that's been great. And I've got a lot to take care of on the property, and got a nice bass lake, stocked well, and the kids love that. Hadn't fished as much as I thought I would, but I'll eventually, you know, do a little bit more of that. But you know, it's been good. We go down to the beach. We got a place that Debbie and I'll go down in Orange Beach, and that's only a 3-hour ride. So, you know, those things keep me busy.
And you could raise a lot of money for the To the Top Collective. Fishing with Bauer, just go out on the lake. Might be an idea.
As long as they charter the boat, okay? We're going to charter a boat, okay? I've had a boat before when I lived in Bay St. Louis, and what's the old saying? The two greatest days of owning a boat is the day you buy it and the day you sell it. Yeah, and I'll agree with that.
What do the grandkids call you?
Coach.
You're kidding?
No.
Not Papa or Pawpaw, or they call you Coach?
Coach.
Who came up with that?
I think my daughter did.
Really?
I think. And
I love that.
Yep. She asked me, she said, is it all right if they call you Coach? I said, yeah, that's fine. That's what I get 90% of the time anyway.
You get that 90% of the time anyway. Yeah. I have a friend whose grandkids call him Captain. That was a new one for me, Captain.
I've never heard of that.
I've never heard it either. I'm like, hey, you thought of something I just never thought about before. So my final question for you, Coach, is we talked about the wins, the players. You're still close to so many players. Your legacy here at Southern Miss, what do you hope people remember years from now when they look back and they see the name Jeff Bauer and they see all that's attached with all your success here? What do you hope your legacy to be here?
We did it right.
Mm-hmm.
We ran the program right. We did it with good kids. We did it with kids that also, most importantly, graduated. You know, they named a new academic facility after me. That's a big honor. I was big on academics, and I was talking to somebody just the other day, and they talked about, I bet you have a lot of players come back and talk about, you know, how well y'all did and this and that. And I said, you know, the one thing they bring up most often is, Coach, thanks for helping me with my degree and showing me the importance of getting an education. I'm telling you, it's. In fact, I was with some alumni. We had a small coffee. You know, you're getting old when you have a coffee group. Okay. Every Thursday at 7:00, we have a coffee group, and the other day Jay Ladner came to the group. Okay. For the first time, we did it in the Bauer Academic Facility. Some of the guys in the group wanted to see the facility, so we had our coffee over there in the academic facility, and that topic came up, and Jay Ladner said the same thing. He said, you're exactly right. They come back and tell you thanks for what you did for them, you know, helping them get their degree.
I want to thank you for doing this. I told you the first time we talked, I'd followed your career from afar from the very beginning and was always a fan of yours. I got family down here. I got roots here in the Pine Belt, and always wanted to sit down with you. And your name is still on a list I made when we first started this show. I said, I want to sit down with Coach Bauer if he's willing. And I'm glad that you were willing to do it.
What took you so long?
That's a great question, Coach. I'm gonna blame it on some of the other guys.
You think I was too busy?
Yes. But apparently you like cutting grass more than anything else, right?
Well, I can put that off to do an interview with you.
Look, you meant so much to Mississippi and Southern Miss, and I know there's so many folks that are going to watch this and enjoy watching this. So thank you for doing this
You're
and what
welcome.
you mean to Mississippi and Southern Miss, and hope to see you at some games this year.
Thanks, Jason.
I appreciate it, Coach. I'm like Dad. Hey, it's therapeutic to him. He'll get out there.
And that's what I was going to tell you. And maybe I told you this in our phone call. I said getting on that riding lawnmower and just thinking about crap and, or thinking about nothing.
You ready for us? We're just talking life, man.
Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week for another episode of Audibles with Jason Scarborough.